as this bill goes into conferee. There is rumors that there are some changes to this legislation, and we certainly hope that that is in place. We have been advocating for more state support and having more state presence in the county than trying to change the county's government structure. So again, as the General Assembly goes into the conferee process, we certainly ask your support on this particular legislation as well, and that we oppose a forced state regionalized model.
Commissioner Keefe.
Thank you, Chairman Adams. As I said, I was going to wait till Brenda got finished with hers, because these are two pretty impactful things to counties. The idea of regionalization is not new. I think most of us don't have to go too far back to see other human services that have tried the idea of regionalization, and whether it's worked or not is still on the table. The impact of this is great when you combine this with the first item that Brenda talked about, and then the block grant funds that could be coming in. There are so many demands that are coming forward for social services in the next couple of years that we cannot anticipate, because we don't even know how badly or how they'll affect counties. But there is one thing that is pretty clear, that counties are going to be responsible financially. And I think we need to take that into consideration as we move forward. We have already seen a substantial increase in our foster care responsibilities. We've seen substantial increases in our food and nutrition, especially in the wake of our emergency services, emergency that we had recently. All these are done with very little help or financial help from any other outside agency. We're kind of in this together, so I think it's important that we as commissioners support Ms. Jackson, and not only as a representative as our Director of Social Services, but also what she brings to the table as a state president. Thank you.
I don't see anybody else's light, but let me ask you a question. And Commissioner Keefe brought it up in terms of the block grant coming down from the federal government. Is there any, I guess, in terms of slowing it down in the state legislature, based upon trying to wait to see what happens with the block grants out of D.C., or is that, are they even having that conversation?
They're not having conversations specifically about the block grant. What they're having conversations around in terms of slowing this particular legislation down is around the fact that the state is under federal program improvement for failing the 7 outcomes of the Child and Family Services Review, which comes and looks at your child abuse program. And the feds have had real concerns about that. And so trying to go through that program improvement plan over the next 5 years and reorganize DSS at the same time, we believe will jeopardize the infrastructure of our child welfare system.
And I wouldn't smile, I wouldn't laugh at Ms. Jackson, but just so happened that Senator Meredith was coming out of the Registry of Deeds office. He probably won't step in this room. He's like, I'm not coming over there. But anyway, no, don't get him. I mean, he was doing some other things, but I just thought it was with that.
He has been very supportive of both of those pieces of legislation.
And I guess out of this bill, though, there are some good things. I think you talked about, and I guess whether they can be pulled out, which is the driver's license piece and some of those other things. Is it a possibility of them pulling some of those out, or just slowing the bill down altogether?
We're not asking to pull the bill, because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as my mom used to say. So we're asking for a revision to Part 1 of the 8 pieces of this legislation. So no, we're not asking that the bill be pulled, but ask that they relook at.
Pull out those certain parts so they can pass even.
We're asking for them to amend it to like a study or something like that, or a state regionalized model versus a county regionalized model. Bring more support from the state down here at the county level versus trying to change the infrastructure of our county system.
Thank you. Commissioner Fairclough.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this weekend on your behalf and our behalf, I attended a state board meeting, and as you know, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, our primary job, their primary job is to lobby the legislature. And when the legislature is in session, that's about all they do. And they're very hard at work at that. Senate Bill 594 got most of the discussion this weekend, as you can imagine. the Directors Association was mentioned. Brenda was not mentioned by name, but Cumberland County was, so I knew who she was talking about. But in any case, they are cautiously optimistic about 594, but they're still a little nervous because anything can happen, when sausage is being made. The other one, 546, doesn't have a companion bill in the House. I think you mentioned that. And what they say, when that happens, if it does in fact pass the Senate, that sets it up for possible short session work in the House if there's motivation to do that. So they're very concerned about 546 as well, even though it probably will not pass this session. But that's just a brief report of some of the things that went on this weekend, and you all get the emails from the association. But if you have any questions for me, if there's anything you want me to take back to the association, let me know. But right now, everything is all about the legislature until this session is over.
Commissioner Booth.
Now, that was your summary. Is that the only two left? I don't want to keep
Yes.
cutting in front of everybody.
Yes, sir.
What do you want from us? Do you want us, is that just an update? Do you want a letter from us, a resolution, or just stay out of your way?
Well, no,
I mean,
don't want you to stay out of my way. This is for information purposes. Again, if you see fit to, request a letter or have a letter, we certainly would welcome that opportunity.
And Commissioner Booth, and I do thank you, Ms. Jackson. We've been in the meetings with Representative Soka, and we thank Marshall. I think he went to the meeting this week. But I think Representative Soka, who is the head of our delegation, always talks about getting something directly from his local commissioners. So I would look for some direction from the board as to sending a letter forward on behalf of the board, if that's unanimous, on Senate Bill 546 and Senate Bill 594, and that management in consultation with Ms. Jackson formulate that letter, forward it to all the commissioners for their input, and we can get that out of here before week's end, because they will be going into conference immediately. Mr. Booth.
To save time, I trust her summary. It's completely on point for both bills. If once you get it and review it, I trust your reviewing of it. To save time, so something else doesn't happen while we're all looking it over, I would just move that we direct the chairman to take the summary by Ms. Jackson and then sign on behalf of the board if, in fact, this passes unanimously.
That's your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? If not, all of those in favor of the motion?
Unanimous.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Jackson.
you, sir.
And thank you for your service, too, for locally and as on the state level. Thank you so very
Thank you for your
much.
support.
Consideration of grant submission to the NC 911 Board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Jackson to present this item. He is the member of management that's been representing the county in the 911 consolidation discussions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Bring before you this morning a request to submit a grant application to the North Carolina 911 Board. As you know, staff and the city, county, user agencies such as fire departments, law enforcement agencies, folks from our 911 centers have been meeting, of course, our elected officials, to discuss and put together a grant application and assemble all the different parts that are necessary to encourage and promote the idea of getting as much back from the 911 Board in terms of funding as possible. The grant request will be for $15 million. The total project is estimated at $30 million. Now, the ask in the grant is, again, the $15 million, which is just a percentage of what would be covered under the requirements from the 911 Board. So this is really just kind of a starter. The county is the grant sponsor, so we would be the party responsible for moving this forward in terms of a project. So it is very important and very timely. I will tell you that this application is due on the 7th, June the 7th. So there is some urgency in us getting this resolved and moved forward. The county staff, Ms. Cannon and myself, did meet with Doug Hewitt, the city manager, and Christoph Baer, the assistant city manager, late last week to discuss how we move forward. There is, as you know, one important item that is not included in the grant, but it will not hold up the grant in terms of the application, and that is an interlocal agreement, and that does still need to be worked out. I will tell you from the meeting Friday that there was an openness and willingness to sit down and discuss this further and to talk about who would be responsible in terms of the operations of a proposed consolidated 911 center. I felt like that meeting was positive, and I think this will help us move forward. One of the things we're going to do is engage a facilitator. We've discussed possibly using Mission Critical Partners, Phil Penny, who is, in terms of his profession and what he does, somebody that is capable of helping us through this process. So where we go from here is we ask that you allow us to submit this grant application and also continue discussions with the city about extending the contract for a facilitator to help us in a 30-day period quickly work out details for an interlocal agreement so that we can continue moving forward towards a consolidated 911 center. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have two questions. Is there a deadline for the interlocal agreement?
Based on what we've been told in discussions with the 911 board and with the consultant, we really feel like sometime in August would be key for us to have this worked out. We say 30 days, but that gives us a time frame so that we have everything resolved. We know that this board won't be meeting in July, so we would meet in rapid fashion, as committees and different groups during the month of July with the hopes of bringing something forward in August to the governing bodies.
Okay, and secondly, I haven't been to any of these meetings because I'm not sure if it's like a quorum buster thing, but is this notified out by the press so that the city and the county are meeting? Is it like our Facilities Finance Policy Committee? There's the 3 voting members, but the board can come listen to it, or is it one of those things where no more than 3 of us can show up in the room?
No, it is notified and is sent out, so it's published and announced formally. Yes.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
Can I ask, and I haven't been privy to those meetings, the $15 million grant, if it's approved, you get the $15 million grant, how soon after that is the other $15 million due, I guess, would be my question.
At least for the county, and unless the manager wants to speak to this, I know that both parties, the governing bodies and the budget folks for the city and county respectively, have worked this into their capital improvement plans. So it's been discussed and it's being planned for. If we move forward, I believe in our CIP it was FY19 that we were talking about actually having to break ground.
I mean, I got that, and I know it's in the CIP,
Okay.
but I'm just saying, in terms of, because I don't know what the city does, and Mr. Keith might be able to answer this, is that most times when you get a grant, they say in order to keep this grant, you have to have this funding by X deadline. Is that in when it comes back? I mean, a lot of grants say if you don't use it within a year, 2 years, then you forfeit the money and it goes back. That's why I was trying to figure out what's the drop down on the other 15 million. And if you don't know, you can get that to me later. I mean, that was just a question.
We can get that
I think that's
information
important.
firmed up and get that to you later. We do have Randy Beeman here with us that serves on one of the committees on the 911 board, and I know in previous discussions, similar projects, you had maybe 2 years or so to work out those details, but we'll pin that down and get the actual details for you, so you have that.
Any other commissioner got any questions? Commissioner Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've learned more about 911 in the last couple of months than I've probably learned in my whole life. This is a good project. It's needed. The 911 Commission at the state level is very interested in regional services. The Cumberland County, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area, along with some of the surrounding areas that have shown some interest, are the type of project that the 911 Commission is looking for, so we are a nice fit for this. There is no deal breakers on the table right now. It is just discussions that we're having. This interlocal agreement, I feel certain will get worked out. And with that being said, I think that it is time sensitive, and I'd like to make a recommendation that we submit for the grant to the NC 911 Board for Consolidated 911 Center.
That's your motion.
It is.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Commissioner Council.
This time, I tried to ask the right way,
Okay.
so I'm going to start blurting again. But I agree with Mr. Keefe and probably Mr. Lancaster has a word also. This is needed, it's something we have been working on for years. I think that there are some concerns, but I think positively about it. And I agree that there are no deal breakers, but we've all got to compromise some, and we've got to give a little to get a lot. And our primary purpose here is the protection of all citizens. And I firmly believe that in this effort, that we will be a regional leader. So I support Mr. Keefe's motion.
Okay. You've heard the motion. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
And as chairman, let me just take this moment to say and thank Commissioner Keefe, Commissioner Council, and Commissioner Lancaster for serving on that committee and doing a tremendous amount of work for the county, and for Tracy and the county manager in terms of talking with and having communication. There's a lot of communications going by. There's a lot of work going with the city and the county, and I thank you all for all of your input in that. Consideration of a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for approval of installment. Well, let me do this. Lisa, if you don't mind, I'm sorry, let me do this one moment before she leaves, because Commissioner Lancaster did bring this into me. If you come forward, and she can come too, that's your intern. I just wanted to make sure, I'm sorry, Commissioner Lancaster brought it to my attention. And so if y'all would give me a point of, just a moment. Ms. Childers out with the Agro. If you would just take a moment, introduce yourself and introduce your intern and where she's from.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lisa Childers with Cumberland County Cooperative Extension. We're over at the Agriculture Center, so you guys know where we're at. This is Haley Buing. She is a student at Mount Olive University. She's going to be an FFA teacher one day. So FFA teacher, so an ag teacher.
Tell us what that is.
An agriculture teacher. We have those FFA in most all of our high schools, and
Yes.
so tell them about where you graduated high school and where you're
I graduated from Cape Fear High School, so in Cumberland County.
Okay.
Born and raised. But I'm majoring in agriculture education at Mount Olive, and I'm a rising junior this year. So I'm really excited. I get to start my student teaching at Grace Creek in my senior year, so I'm really excited about it.
Did you bring us some pickles from down in Mount Olive?
Not
You
today.
can't come from Mount Olive and not bring any pickles.
Right.
Have you had enough pickles down in Mount Olive? If you come around, and we'd just like to thank you and for coming down and being our intern and coming back home. That's important. Oh, is that? Lisa, get her badge. Get her badge. Get her badge. Get her a badge. A picture badge. A picture badge. Thank you. That way she looks official. Thank you. And you know, it's exciting to hear that you graduated from Cape Fear, you're coming back here and coming home. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank Commissioner Lancaster for bringing that to my attention. So back to number 7.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask our Finance Director, Mrs. Evans, to present this item, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Today, I am going to be requesting approval on 2 items, but first I'll describe in the background. PNC recently provided us with an advanced refunding analysis of the Series 2009A Certificates of Participation and 2011B Limited Obligation Bonds. The analysis showed that based on today's market, the county has the potential to generate over $1.5 million in interest rate savings by refunding these 2 sources of debt in the public market. The total upfront cost of the refunding is anticipated to be approximately $304,000. The total interest savings on the debt is projected to be $1.5 million, resulting in a projected annual average interest rate savings of $128,000 over 12 years, so 2018 through 2029. I'm sorry, I'm reading from the agenda, but there's some technical. All right, bond refundings are most commonly used by state and local governments to achieve savings on interest costs. Pursuing this opportunity to obtain interest rate savings by advanced refunding is consistent with the county's financial policy of achieving a present value savings at a minimum in the range of 2.5 to 3%. Before a refunding process begins. The percentage of savings on this refunding is projected to be approximately 7.41%. In your packet, you will find a resolution which authorizes the filing of an application with the Local Government Commission. The purpose of the resolution is to make the findings of fact, which include the installment purchase is preferable to issuing GO bonds. The amount proposed is not excessive for the stated purpose, and the county's debt management procedures and policies are good and in strict compliance with the law. A tax increase is not necessary to pay the debt, and the county is not in default on any existing debt. Additionally, a notice of the public hearing on the proposed installment financing contract is provided. In addition, the financing calendar is attached for information purposes. Adoption of the approving resolution and the public hearing will be considered during the June 19 board meeting. The LGC meeting for which approval is being sought is scheduled for July 11th, 2017. We are requesting 2 separate motions. Number 1, approve the resolution authorizing the filing of an application to the Local Government Commission, as well as the findings required by General Statute 159-151, and 2, call for a public hearing on the proposed financing to be held on June 19th.
All right, I got Commissioner Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vicki, these 2009A bonds, these are for the library and the school, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What's the maturity date of those loans today, if we don't do anything?
6/30/2029.
So we're not extending the time
No,
on them at all? Okay.
it's truly an interest rate savings.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fairclough.
Mr. Chairman, this time I move for approval of the resolution as set forth by our finance officer for the application to the LGC, as well as the findings required by General Statutes 159-151.
Second.
Second.
You heard the motion. Any questions, comment? All those in favor?
Unanimous.
And we'll take the second
I'll
motion.
make that motion to call for a public hearing on the proposed financing to be held June 19, 2017.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Nominations to boards and committees. The first one is the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, 7 vacancies. Commissioner Council.
I am nominating it includes a person who just graduated from our academy, although Ms. Dorothy McNeil as a new appointee, and for their second terms, Ms. Mary Dillon, Ms. Donna Atkins, Laura Hardy, Gary Blackwell, Don O'Donnell, and Lily White.
That is 7. Anyone else have any other nominations? Okay. Federal Technical Community College Board of Trustees, Commissioner Lancaster.
I have one, Susanna Tucker.
Okay. Anyone else? Library Board of Trustees, I'm sorry,
Make a nomination for Mr. Hutchinson.
which, Federal Tech?
Yes.
All right. Library Board of Trustees, 1 vacancy, Commissioner Council.
Ms. Belinda Wilkerson.
Are there any other nominations? Yeah, you did that. You had your light lit up, so. Nursing Home Advisory Board, there's 1 vacancy.
That's Ms. Davis, Christy Davis.
All right. Christy Davis. All right. Social Services Board, 1 vacancy. Commissioner Fairclough.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jimmy Key.
Transportation Advisory Board, there are 4 vacancies. Don't jump in line.
Trying to get there.
We're working on these computer, on our technology. That's one of our strategic plans. Commissioner Fairclough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the advisory board for the transportation advisory board. Under the Workforce Development Center or its designee, I'd like to nominate Nadia Rodriguez for the County Planning Department Director or designee, Cecil Combs for the MPO, that's the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Deloma West Graham for the Dialysis Center representative, Antoinette Wiggins.
All right, that's 4
That's
for those vacancies. Thank you. And we've got appointments to boards and committees. The ABC Board, there are 2 vacancies. I will take them in line. There are 3 people for 2 vacancies, so all of those in favor of Lee Bachman, please raise your hand.
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Charles Evans, Chairman Adams, and Commissioner Michael Boos.
That's 4. Kenneth Edge.
Voting in favor, Commissioners Faircloth and Keefe, Commissioners Council Lancaster and Boos.
And for Ms. Sinclair.
Voting in favor, Commissioners Faircloth, Evans, Chairman Adams, Commissioners Council and Lancaster.
So what did I get, 5, 5, and 4? 5, 5, and 4?
Yes.
So Ms. Sinclair, Mr. Edge, and are the 2. All right. That takes us to number 10, closed session. I take a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I've moved that we go into closed session for A, an economic development matter pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A4, and for attorney-client matters pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Is there a second?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor go into closed session.
Unanimous.
We're going to closed session.